We're off to the races in the sartorial kitchen with my derby-themed menu, kicking things off with my Geotta balls with a zesty ranch dipping sauce. Next is my hot brown sliders. And for dessert, it's Kentucky bourbon bars. And lastly, a fun take on a classic mint julep with a ginger mint simple syrup. So why don't you pull up a chair and dine with me?
Guys, it is Derby Day in the sartorial kitchen, and I am talking, of course, about the Kentucky Derby. And the Kentucky Derby is kind of like the Super Bowl of horse racing, and it is a big to-do here in Kentucky, even up here in the northern part of the state. And we are kicking things off with a Kentucky bourbon pie, but instead of doing a pie, I'm going to make little squares, and then I can cut it into little pieces, and it's going to present better, and it's going to be easier as well than to do different pies. So, I've got a 13 by 9 cake pan here. I am just pre-greasing to keep everything from sticking. And we're going to start with the pie crust, which is going to be the base of our squares. So, I've got some flour here. We need a cup of flour. It's going to go straight into our food processor here. And I like a sweet crust, so I'm going to add just a couple tablespoons of sugar. And then we also need a 1/3 cup of shortening. I'm just going to scoop that right out. You can use butter too if you like for your pie crust. Make sure it's cold butter, but I'm going to do the shortening today. We just need a 1/3 cup of that. And we also need a couple teaspoons of salt. Okay. Put the lid on this and we'll give it a little pulse. You're going to see the flour and the shortening is going to kind of break down a little bit. And then we're just going to round this out with a few tablespoons of water. Make sure it's cold water. You can pour that right on top here. I'm going to start with 2. You can always add more if you need it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Get this blade out of here. That's pie crust. Set that aside. Now, I'm just going to take this. Let's get a spatula here. And we'll just dump this right into the bottom of our pan. Alright, we're just going to come in here with some clean hands. And I like to, sometimes I like to take a little flour and kind of dust my hands to keep it from sticking when I work with it. And then we're just going to kind of bring this guy together here. And I'm just going to kind of flatten it out. We're going to make sure we get into the corners here. Make sure it is evenly covered. We don't want any of our filling seeping down to the bottom. We want to make sure we cover it well across the corners. Okay, that looks pretty good, so we're going to set this aside, and we're going to move on to our filling. Alright, time for the filling. I have got 3 eggs here, and to that I'm adding some softened butter. That is 1 stick of softened butter. also need some sugar. I'm going to do a 1/3 cup of granulated sugar and a 1/3 cup of light brown sugar. Just a smidge more. Okay. I've also got some vanilla extract here. I'm doing just a couple teaspoons of the vanilla extract. One cup of light corn syrup. And pour that in. Alright. And the last of our wet ingredients, I have got some good old-fashioned Kentucky bourbon here. Wouldn't be bourbon bars without the bourbon. And that smells pretty strong, you guys, but it's going to cook off in the oven. And I'm just going to do a couple tablespoons of this. Just enough to get kind of that earthy nuttiness without too much of the liquor. And we'll set this guy aside for later. Okay, then I'm going to come in here with my whisk. Beat those eggs up and stir everything together. Oh, this smells really good. You want to whisk this really good. You want to break down that butter and everything. And that is our mixture, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm just going to add a few more things. I've got some nuts here. I've got some chopped pecans, and I've got some chopped walnuts. It's usually made with walnuts, but I love pecans. They're a very southern thing. And these are already kind of chopped up for me. So we're just going to dump them right in. Pecans and our walnuts. And you can use any kind of nut you want, but these are kind of traditional nuts for a Kentucky pie like this. And then I've also got some chocolate chips. What differs like a pecan pie or something like that from the Derby or bourbon pie is that it has chocolate in it. And I'm going to do about a cup of chocolate chips. That's going to be about half of this bag here. And then I'm just going to stir this again and get all of our ingredients nice and incorporated. That is going to go directly onto our pie dough here. I'm just going to pour this right over top. Make sure we get all that goodness out of here. Now I've already got my oven preheated to 375 degrees. This is going to bake in the oven for about 30 to 35 minutes. You just want to make sure you check it periodically. And you can tell when it's kind of set. You can always do the toothpick test as well. That's kind of my go-to when I'm baking. So we're just going to spread this out. I want to make sure it's covered evenly. And we're going to pop this in the oven. And I will see you guys later. I discussed Geotta in my breakfast video. And it's basically bits and pieces of the pork that they stretch out. They add steel-cut oats, they add different seasonings, and just stretch it out. So I've got a log of the Geotta here. And I'm using the hot Geotta. I want it to have just a little bit of a kick to it, just to give it something different here. And we're just going to put these together almost like a meatball. And it's going to be absolutely delicious. We're going to fry them up in the skillet. And I'm going to make a fun little dipping sauce. So I've just got the block of Geotta here. I've got 1 egg, and then we're going to do some seasonings here. Some garlic powder here, about a tablespoon of the garlic powder. I've got some onion powder here. We're going to do about a tablespoon of the onion powder. And then we're going to do a couple teaspoons of sage. Sage is a little strong, so we don't need as much of the sage. And then we're going to do a couple teaspoons of salt. And about a teaspoon of black pepper. Now, to really help bring this all together, I've got some breadcrumbs here. This is going to give some body to our Geotta balls, and it's also going to help bind this together with our egg. And I'm doing about a half cup. The Geotta's a little thick. It already has the steel cutouts in it, so you really don't need as many breadcrumbs, which is nice. And I'm just going to come in here, clean hands, break this egg up, and just mix everything together. We want everything nice and incorporated. Alright, that's looking pretty good, guys. So now I'm just going to come in here and form my balls. Now we're going to do littler balls here than I would like a normal meatball. So maybe a hair smaller than golf ball size, because these are appetizers. I want them to be like little bites. So I'm just going to come in here and roll these up, and then drop them right into my... You really want to listen for the sizzle of that skillet. That's how you know your oil's ready. If your oil's not ready, you're going to end up with soggy balls, and that's no fun. Now these are just going to cook a few minutes on each side. You want to get a nice crispy crust on the outside, and then the inside's going to be nice and soft and tender. Okay, that is the last ball. I'll give my hands a quick rinse here. Anytime I'm working with raw meat, I always like to rinse my hands off. Now, some of these guys are going to be ready to flip. I just have my fork here, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn some of these over. You can usually tell whenever you're frying something when it's done cooking or it's ready to flip, because you start to lose the sound of that sizzle. These are looking amazing, guys. We've got a nice golden crust on the bottom of these. Okay, now while this continues to cook on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and whip up a fun little dipping sauce for them real quick. I've just got some cream cheese here, some whipped cream cheese, and a little sour cream. I've also got some ranch seasoning and a little taco seasoning. Now I like the whipped cream cheese because it's really soft and pliable, and I don't have to worry about getting it in the food processor or anything like that. So I'm just going to pry this open. And then the sour cream, we're going to do about half and half. Half sour cream, half cream cheese. So I'm just going to use the rest of the container of the sour cream. So it's going to be about a half a cup. And then we'll do a half a cup of this cream cheese as well, which is going to be about half of this container. Then for my seasonings, we're going to do a couple tablespoons of the ranch seasoning. And we're going to do a couple tablespoons of the taco seasoning. So it's going to be like a zesty ranch dip. Very simple, just 4 ingredients. And then we're just going to mix this together. And I'm really just folding it. I want all the mix here, the seasonings to be well incorporated. And if you just come in here and stir this really hard, your seasonings are just going to fly everywhere. So I just kind of come in from the bottom and pull this up from the top. And then once you get all that, then you can kind of stir this in. Okay, these guys are looking pretty good. But I just want to give them a little check here to see where we're at. So I've got my handy dandy thermometer here. I'm just going to find one of the bigger pieces and stick it in. Now with pork, we're looking for between like 155, 165. We don't want to overdo them. And that is looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off on these. And then I've got a little plate here with a paper towel. Because these are kind of greasy. So I do want to blot them down first before I plate them. Guys, I cannot wait. So I'm going to go ahead and try one of these. I've got a toothpick here. I'm just going to come in here. We're just going to come in here and get some of this sauce. So good. There's the crunch on the outside of the Geotta ball, but the inside is so soft and moist. You get a nice, bright zing from a little dipping sauce here. The cream cheese kind of cools the heat a little bit, but then you've got the ranch and the taco seasoning just really brings everything together. Now I'm just going to plate this up. I got a fun little platter here. And I've got my sauce in the middle. And then I'm just going to take my balls and arrange them around the side of the plate. Like this. See here, this is why we blot it down. That is a lot of grease. We do not want that grease going to our guest. So here is my Geotta balls with dipping sauce. That's going to go up to the serving table. Next, we'll work on my hot brown sliders. Stay tuned. We're moving on to our next appetizer, which is going to be hot brown sliders. Now, a hot brown, it's almost kind of like a turkey club. It's got turkey, it's got bacon on it. We're not going to have lettuce. And instead of cheese, we're doing a bechamel, which is kind of a bit of a cream sauce. And it's basically just French for cream sauce. So I've got about a half a stick of butter here that I'm melting down in a saucepan. We're going to make a quick roux, which a roux is just a thickening agent. I'm going to let this butter melt down some. And then I've got some flour here. We're just going to add a couple tablespoons of flour. And then I'm going to come in here with my whisk. We're going to stir this together. Now you want to let this cook for a little while because you want that raw flour taste to cook out, but you don't want it to burn. So you want to make sure you keep stirring it and keep it from sticking to the bottom of the pan. Otherwise you're going to end up with a burnt roux and it's not going to be very appetizing. So just go ahead and keep stirring this. Whisking it really good. Okay. You'll be able to smell when that flour kind of cooks down. You'll start smelling more of the butter and less of the flour. Okay. That is good. So I've got some heavy whipping cream here. And this is just going to make a nice, lush, thick cream sauce to complement our sliders. And then I'm going to stir this in. I want to incorporate the roux into the heavy whipping cream so it gets nice and thick. Meanwhile, I've also got some bacon here, rendering in the skillet. That's going to go on top of our sliders, and I've got the rest of my ingredients out here. Okay, we're going to let that go here, but I've got some seasonings for it here. We're going to do a couple teaspoons of salt, a teaspoon of black pepper, also a little nutmeg, classic for a bechamel sauce. We're going to do about a teaspoon of nutmeg. I'm going to whisk that in and we're going to let this go. This is going to start to boil. And what that's going to do is that's what's really going to bring this all together. It's going to get nice and thick and luscious on us. Okay, I'm going to let that go, and I've got my bacon rendering down. Now we're going to move on to the rest of my ingredients here. Get my cutting board out. Got some tomatoes here. Now a lot of times a hot brown is served more like a casserole and everything's kind of broken up and into a dish. But I thought it would be fun to do sliders. So I've got some tomatoes here. Normally you would dice up the tomatoes and kind of sprinkle them on. But I think I'm going to slice these and then everybody's going to get a fun little slice of tomato on their sandwich here. And I actually only need this one tomato. So we're going to put this other guy away. Okay, so there is the tomato. I'm going to push that to the side here, and then we'll get the turkey out. So I got the delicatessen. I got him to slice the turkey a little thick for me. I almost wanted it kind of like a Thanksgiving kind of turkey cut. And we're doing 9 sliders. So I'm going to first start by cutting this in half lengthwise. And then we're just going to come in here and then cut this into thirds. And then that'll give us 3, 6, 9, 3, 6, 9. So we'll have 2 slices per sandwich. And I got Hawaiian rolls, because, well, for one, they're kind of the size I want for the sliders. But I kind of like the sweetness of the Hawaiian roll. It kind of gives an interesting note to the dish. So we'll just wipe this knife off here. Bacon's looking good. I'm going to give it a flip here. I want it nice and crisp, so it doesn't get too soggy here with our sauce. We'll just give our sauce another whisk here. You want to whisk your sauce periodically because you want to make sure that none of the roux is sticking to the bottom of the pan because it's going to burn and that's not going to be too good. Okay, so for the Hawaiian rolls, we'll slide this out of the package. I'm just going to take my knife through the middle here. And I'm going to slice these in half. And once all of our ingredients are ready, we will assemble our sandwiches. Our bechamel is nice and thick. It has started to bubble. You want to take it off as soon as it starts to boil because it's going to get too thick on you. This looks amazing. Our bacon has rendered down nicely. I'm going to get a paper towel out. Bacon's a little on the greasy side, so we're going to take our bacon off the heat here. I've got a little towel. I'm just going to take the bacon and plop it down on this paper towel. It's going to catch all this grease here. I want the grease on the paper towel and not in my sandwich. Alright, looks good. We'll start putting our sandwiches together. Okay, so we're going to come in here. I'm going to start with the bottom of the sandwich, and we're going to do a slice of turkey. And then I think I'm going to do a slice of the cheese and a slice of tomato. And then we'll come in here and do the other slice of turkey. And our bacon, I'm just going to fold this bacon in half and kind of nestle it over top. And then I'm just going to take some of this bechamel and I'm going to be real gentle with it. So I don't want it to spill all over the plate, and we just need a little dollop of that. And then we will take our top, and there we have it. And we'll just continue this. Slice of turkey. cheese and tomato. Alright, our last sandwich here. And, oh, there's no more room on the plate. Well, I don't want this guy to go to waste. So let's go ahead and give it a little taste here. So good. Nice hearty sandwich. The tomato gives a nice bright acidic note. And then the turkey and the bacon, nice savory note, goes really well together. The bechamel just melts in your mouth. Absolutely amazing. The Hawaiian roll, a nice little sweet note. Absolutely divine. So here is my hot brown sliders, ready for the plating table. Alright, let's check this guy out. Oh yeah. Nice and bubbly. You can see that it's gotten to a nice golden brown color. You can see all the nuts and the chocolate. Now I've got a little rack here. I'm just going to set this down for a while and let it cool off before we go to plate it up. And while that is cooling, we are going to move on to my appetizers. I am doing some Geotta balls with a zesty ranch dip and some hot brown sliders. So stay tuned. Guys, this looks amazing and it smells even better. I'm just going to cut these into little squares, and I have got another similar serving platter. I like to kind of plate things on similar plates, because I kind of like the uniformity. But I also like these oval plates because it's kind of reminiscent of the oval track that the horses run on. So I thought that would be kind of fun. And this is a little sticky here. It's almost like a sticky toffee. But it's got nuts and chocolate in it. And then we'll come back this way. We'll go long ways. So I think we're looking pretty good. Then we'll just come in here and pry these out. Doesn't that look amazing? You can see the flaky layers of the pie crust, and then you've got that wonderful filling with the nuts and the chocolate. I cannot wait to dig into these. And here we are, guys. My Kentucky bourbon pie bars. And I have cut me just a tiny little piece. I can go ahead and taste it now. That's so good. You get the crunch of the nuts, and then that chocolate just kind of creeps up on you. Nice, buttery, flaky pie crust melts in your mouth. The nuttiness of the pecans and the walnuts play nicely together. So good. The last dish for my table. Alright guys, can't have a party without cocktails. And one of the most classic and traditional cocktails for Derby Day is mint juleps. Now it's kind of a old school cocktail, so I wanted to kind of jazz it up a bit. So I'm adding some fun flavors here to my simple syrup. And the simple syrup, I've already got it going. It's just equal parts sugar and water. You can vary the recipe depending on how many drinks you plan to make. And I'm just peeling some ginger right now. I want to get the skin off of here. And then I'm just going to peel some pieces of ginger right into my simple syrup. And I've also got some mint here. Now, they call it a mint julep because it's usually garnished with a piece of mint. But I thought it would be fun to have some mint in my simple syrup as well. So I've got some mint here that I'm just going to give a rough chop to. And then I'm also going to save some to garnish everyone's drink with. But I'm going to take a little of it now. And we're going to strain this out, so you don't need to like finely mince it or anything like that. I'm just going to do a rough chop just to kind of break up the oils of the mint and really incorporate it here into my simple syrup. I love the smell of fresh mint. It really opens up your sinuses. Okay, and that's just about a couple tablespoons of mint. And I'm going to give this a stir. Basically, for a simple syrup, you just let it go till right about boiling. You want that sugar to dissolve into the water, and that's basically all you need. Alright, so I've got some Kentucky bourbon here. Can't have mint juleps without Kentucky bourbon. So I'm going to pour those in first. And what I did, I went ahead and got these smaller bottles because they were on sale, so it's actually cheaper than doing one of the bigger bottles. I don't want bits of mint and ginger peel in the drink itself. So I'm just gonna grab my top. Okay. Alright, that's starting to smell pretty good. That simple syrup, you can really smell that bourbon and the simple syrup. It's going to be absolutely delicious. Okay, so I've just got some fun little glasses here from the Gentlemen's Club at the local racetrack. And I like mine on ice, so, or on the rocks they call it. So I'm just going to drop a few ice cubes in here. And we'll pour this drink in here. Looks pretty good, and you can still see little bits of the mint and ginger in here, but a lot of it has been strained out. And then I'm just going to take a fun little sprig of mint here, and that's going to garnish the side of my glass. And I am all ready for the races. Let's give this a little taste. Not bad. Bourbon, if you're not used to bourbon, it has a little bit of a bite to it. So you want to, pace yourself. But I like the ginger and the mint kind of play nicely with the